كلنا نعيش في شقق بسيطة، المصاعد تنطفئ، مكيفات الهواء متوقفة عن التشغيل، لقد بقينا من دون ماء لمدة يومين كاملين. الأطفال لا يعرفون كيف يعيشون من دون ماء. كل ما أعرفه هو أننا نتعرض للأذى. قد لا يتضرر المسؤولون، لكن نحن الناس العاديين نتضرر.
The urgent solution only is reducing the consumption. At the moment, government is making huge pressure over industry sector, which is harmful for GDP growth of country. You know, to supply houses, electricity for houses, we are cutting the electricity of factories and centers for making health for in the country. I don't think that this is a good way.
مع أزمات عدة تشهدها إيران مؤخرا من انقطاع الكهرباء والمياه بصورة متكررة أو الاحتجاجات العمالية وضبابية المشهد السياسي في البلاد بعد وصول إبراهيم رئيسي لرئاسة إيران، تتزايد التساؤلات في الشارع الإيراني عن مصير هذه البلاد.
Yes, first of all, main problem is coming from lack of investment, enough investment in the country, mostly because of sanctions and embargoes, which, in my opinion, has suffered the country every month between 8 to 10 billion US dollar. And secondly is, interruption of the government in pricing.
ووفقا لخبراء إيرانيين فإن تعدين العملات الرقمية أثر بصورة كبيرة على حجم استهلاك الكهرباء، حيث يؤكد سعيد أن زيادة الإقبال على تعدين تلك العملات من أسباب استهلاك الرئيسي والمتزايد للكهرباء في إيران.
You know, since past 1 year ago, we have a lot of mining instruments or equipment which is creating digital money in the country. The main consumption of this digital money is electricity, which is very cheap in Iran. And because of this, nobody is eager or is encouraged to reduce his consumption. These are structural problems, but we have some temporary problems also. For example, we have 14,000 megawatt capacity to producing hydroelectric power. And the other element which caused this shortage of supply is that economic growth, especially in industry sector, has been much higher than last year in same time. At least we need 15 to 20 billion US dollar investment to cover all shortages, because if we suppose that for every megawatt production we need at least 1 million US dollar.
أما عن حل الأزمة فيوضح سعيد ليلاز أنه على الأقل تحتاج إيران إلى استثمارات من 15 إلى 20 مليار دولار أمريكي لتغطية جميع حالات النقص.
Our shortage in investment is around 15 to 20 billion US dollar, which is huge amount of money. Especially we should have invest on clean electricity power production line, not traditional way, which is more expensive but more clean.
لدينا انقطاعات متكررة في التيار الكهربائي ومكيف الهواء متوقف باستمرار. نحن في الصيف ودرجات الحرارة مرتفعة جدا. يشعر الناس بالضيق الشديد. أنا أيضا أعاني من صعوبة في التنفس، لكن لا يوجد أحد يساعدنا حقا.
In structural problems, we need at least 3 to 4 years to attract more investment in the country and to produce more capacity, which need at least between 3 to 4 years. In adjust the pricing, we need to make brave decisions. We should reduce house consumption of electricity in the country in short term, which is very difficult for authorities in Iran. Nobody is assured that what is the shortage and what is the participation rate of them. But it seems that we declare we could be able to, put out from the, houses, from the factories, around 200,000 miners until now, which is equal of 750 megawatt production. This is huge. Government is suggesting that we are consuming at the moment more than 2,000 megawatt for miners in the country, which is equal, in my opinion, equal of 20-25% of whole shortage of the country. This is significant, in my opinion.
فيما تستمر ظاهرة تعدين العملات الرقمية بكثافة في ظل وجود أسعار منخفضة لاستهلاك الكهرباء بإيران بحسب مسؤولين إيرانيين، كما سمحت إيران لتلك الظاهرة التي أسهمت في الالتفاف على العقوبات الأمريكية.
It seems that both are involved of that, but what we know, what we can be assured is that the authorities, formal miners, have been closed because of the government order, but informal producers are working very hard. Why? Because electricity in Iran is cheaper than the world, and if you produce digital coins, digital money from this electricity, you make huge amount of profit and money. Sanctions is important in this field because, frankly speaking, I think that digital money has been one way to receive hard currency for countries since 1-2 years ago, and it worked to overcome over the sanctions. But as the situation is, from a financial point of view and international point of view, as the situation is going to be better in international level, for example, we have much more gates to receive our money and to export oil at the moment, much more than 1 year ago. Frankly speaking, we have some rumors about that, but myself, I am not sure about that. I have no confirmed news about that. But we know that some Chinese companies have been formally active in this field, and they have huge farms to produce digital money, but it seems that they have been to close their activities, to stop their activities until the 1st of October at least.
100% همین بیتکوینه.
100% انقطاع الكهرباء مرتبط بعملة البيتكوين هذه. لا أعتقد أن مثل هذه الأشياء ستحدث لو لم يكن الأمر كذلك. كانت دائما طريقة ما، والناس يتأقلمون دائما مع الحياة، ولكن الآن على الرغم من تقدم العلم والتكنولوجيا كثيرا لم يتقدم أحد في إيران.
ولی خدا رو شکر در ایران کسی پیشرفت نکرد.
ورغم الأزمات الاقتصادية التي تواجه إيران من الداخل، يبدو أن الاهتمام بالسياسات الخارجية في المنطقة أمر غير مبرر من جانب نظام خامنئي.
It will be not logic if a government has been or is in a very critical situation from hard currency point of view, and then we will help Hezbollah of Lebanon. The witness, the documents shows me that at the moment Iran is more prior. Internal issues are more prior than everybody out of the country. It seems that at the moment only 1% of whole consumption of the country is under control of the miners' production. I think we should not exaggerate about that, because we have lost between 8 to 10,000 megawatt capacity of production of electricity only through drought, through lack of hydroelectrical powers. I mean, they are too active in producing miners, but their share in economy is not too much, is not significant. You know, economic growth of Iran since past 10 months ago has been positive.
أما عن المشكلات الاقتصادية في إيران، فإن الفساد يعد أبرز الأسباب التي تضرب الاقتصاد، وكذلك الافتقار إلى التوحيد، فيما يعد نقص الإنتاجية مشكلة إضافية ساهمت في زيادة معدل التضخم في إيران لأكثر من 40%.
We have three level economic problems in the country. The first one is structural problems, which is the most important segment of economic problems in Iran, mainly comes from three elements. First of all, corruption. We have a very big problem in corruption in economy of Iran. And secondly, lack of considerability. There are a lot of gaps between right and left faction, between Mr. Rouhani's government and, for example, judicial system and other organs and other organizations of the power in the country. And because of this, we lost a lot of we wasted a lot of energy, a lot of money, a lot of facilities because of this fighting. And the third problem is lack of productivity. These are three elements of our very big economic problems, which cause inflation. For example, at the moment, inflation rate in the country is more than 40%. People of Iran, especially poor people, are not able to bear even reducing level of inflation. Mr. Ra'isi's government first priority is reducing inflation, which needs more investment, because the other problem, structural problem of Iran is lack of investment, enough investment. This is it has been before a sanction or coronavirus pandemic of corona, that there would be no encourage in investment in the country. And because of lack of investment, we have huge wave of unemployment rate. The third main problem of economy of Iran is unemployment rate, which is formally around 12 to 13%, but actually it is much more. Just through pandemic, we lost around 1.5 to 2 million jobs in the country, which is around 8 to 10% of whole jobs in the country.
ويشير سعيد ليلاز إلى استعداد طهران في الوقت الحالي للتوقيع مرة أخرى على الاتفاق النووي مع الولايات المتحدة 5+1، ولكنهم قد ينتظرون قليلا حتى تتأكد ملامح نظام رئيسي.
At the moment, we are ready to. The country is ready to sign again atomic deal with the United States, 5+1 group. But because of a fight between factions, political factions, they are waiting for next coming weeks. If they sign the contract, the deal again between Iran and United States, and for example, Naples agreement, FATF, they ratified FATF, you will see that enormous number of petrodollar will come to Iran, and new coming government will be able to invest in a lot of fields. And through this investment, you will see much more bearable inflation rate and better economic situation through better investment and lower unemployment rate. It means that we will have more rational decisions and less pressure over Mr. Raisi's government, at least for a short or medium term, because we had unification in power in Mr. Ahmadinejad government also. But after 4 or 5 years, again, social society in Iran, civilized society in Iran is absolutely strong. It's stronger than any unification of power. Then any unification of power in Iran, through gun or through election, will be temporarily, will be not forever, because they have no other choice.
Okay. Then,
I have a strategic thesis. I have a strategic theory. Do you know Bonapartism?
Yes.
Bonapartism is Karl Marx, sentence, which say that when current situation in the country is not able to going forward anymore because of huge critical situation, huge, crisis. And there is no other political power which is able to overcome to current power in the country, exactly like Iran. In my opinion, exactly like Saudi Arabia, in whole Middle East. Mr. Mohammed bin Salman is Bonaparte of Saudi Arabia to solve economic problems of Saudi Arabia, and we need same government in Iran because of this fact that if we want to go back, for example, to 2011, 2010 situation, we need to have 250 to 13 billion US dollar oil income per year, which is impossible for Iran. The price of oil should be 200 to 100 barrel, 100 US dollars per barrel. As we don't have enough hard currency income from one side, and from the other side, our crises are too huge and too big and too much. We have to be rational. And because of this, I am sure that Mr. Raisi's government will be much more rational than Mr. Ahmadinejad. In my theory of Bonapartism, social and cultural aspects of Iranian life will be in a better situation. Why? Because during 2009 election, the second term of Mr. Ahmadinejad, Islamic Republic of Iran has realized that without technocrats and without, urban middle class, they are not able to govern this country. They push back. Civil society in Iran is much more powerful at the moment than 2009 crackdown, because this crackdown has not been successful. At the end of the day, they couldn't be able to make their instant or forever hegemony over the country. Nobody allowed nobody to be hegemon and to be dominant over the country through a despotic situation, despotic way. The most important issue for Mr. Ra'isi's government is economy. You have seen that through the election, you have seen that there has been actually no candidate of presidential election who says about the culture, about the Islamic rules, Islamic values, and so on. Because the society of Iran needs only or mainly make action, real action, not just lab, about the economy. And in this economic steps, the first priority of Mr. Ra'isi is reducing inflation rate. This reducing inflation rate is not possible, but it is absolutely difficult. It is very difficult because expenses of government is too much, and because of corruption of banking system. Secondly, he has to receive huge amount of money from our hard currency monies in South Korea, in China, in Europe, in everywhere in the world, which is under embargo at the moment, to feed people and to attract, to make motivation in investment again. Because of this, most of observers in Iran are optimistic about the next coming weeks to have new deal with United States after end of Mr. Rouhani's government. And another step is reducing the unemployment rate and to reduce pressure over poor people. Poor people are under huge pressure at the moment in the country. Between 40 to 50% of people, in my opinion, are on the poverty line at the moment. And we have to think about that. They are between 30 to 15 million people at the moment. And Mr. Ra'isi has very hard and important work to do in this field. I think since next coming 12 months, we will see some stabilization in cultural and social aspects of life in Iran, because Mr. Ra'isi doesn't want to make middle class worry or angry against himself. He needs their support at least in next coming 1 or 2 years of his presidential era. And secondly, he has immediately solved his main problem with 5+1 group, and especially United States in atomic deal and in FATF. And during our inside of this way, we have to solve our problem with our neighbors, Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates.
وبعد إقبال ضعيف في الانتخابات الرئاسية الإيرانية، حيث بلغت نسبة التصويت أقل من 40% بحسب إحصاءات رسمية، يبدو رئيسي أمام حقيقة فقدانه لتأييد شعبي إيراني.
This is a real fact that only 40% have been participated in the election. And because of this, Mr. Ra'isi has to do something. this fact which you mentioned, and it is absolutely true, is in favor of my argument that Mr. Rئيسي has to do something to compensate this situation. And I personally am not worried about atomic activities in Iran, because Islamic Republic of Iran is ready to come back to atomic deal, which we signed in 2015. It means that both sides have to make very difficult decisions. You know, this legitimacy is under pressure. Last time, Mr. Rouhani took 24 million votes, and for his first election, he received 18 million. Mr. Rئيسي received 17 million. But this is a very important fact that around 25% of people who voted in previous elections, this time they didn't vote. What does it mean? It means that they are absolutely upset. They are angry with the government, with the whole regime, and they are looking for a very immediate action. I don't believe that we have no choice, we have no opportunity to compensate this situation. Why? Because please don't forget that this lack of participation, in my opinion, is mainly because of absolutely unbelievable pressure of United States over Iranian country, Iranian people. You know, since past 4 years, you cannot imagine that how huge and big pressure have been forced over Iranian people and Iranian ordinary life. If you looked at for example, official radio and television of the country, you would see every hour, in my opinion, that they criticized Mr. Rouhani because of lack of, management, lack of activity, lack of everything, although they knew and they know that most of these problems came from the sanction and embargo of United States. What does it mean? It means that the right wing, in following its goals, has been ready to do anything to make Mr. Rouhani's government, unable to solve the problems. And one very important part of lack of satisfaction among people comes from this fact. What does it mean? It means that right wing in Iran is ready to achieve its goal, is ready to do anything against country. This is the real fact in my country. In his first 4 years era, he has been successful. During 3 years, GDP growth of Iran came back to 2011, which has been perfect. But immediately after second terms of election, right wing makes some very big problems for the government through Mashhad unrest, if you remember, in December of 2017. And after that, Mr. Rouhani, maybe suppose that if he turned back to right wing, he will take back their support. He made, in my opinion, mistake, very big mistake, because he turned back to right wing, and through this action, he lost support of left wing reformist movement and people, and he didn't receive support of right wing. He lost both. And immediately after that, sanction of United States came over the country. 2 years after that, we faced a pandemic. In my opinion, since past 800 years ago, after Mongols' attack in Iran and in Iraq and in the west of Asia, never we had bear such a huge pressure over Iranian people.
ويشير البعض إلى أن رئيسي وهو من معسكر المتشددين قد يحرم الإيرانيين مما تبقى من بقايا الحريات لديهم، ولكن يرجح ليلاز أن تشدد رئيسي قد يستمر لمدة 2 إلى 3 أو 4 سنوات كحد أقصى، ثم ستصبح الولاية الثانية لحكومة رئيسي مختلفة كثيرا عما هي عليه الآن على حد قوله.
This unification of power, in my opinion, first of all, will not be forever. It will work for 2 or 3 years, maybe 4 years. And you will see that the second term of Mr. Ra'isi's government will be much, much different than now, first of all. And secondly, as whole system, whole country is under very important danger because of the problems which I mentioned for you, they have to be productive, you know. They have to be, in unification of power. They have to be useful. They have to be efficient. They have to be legitimate against people, because when you don't have petrodollar, at least for next coming 2-3 years, Mr. Raisi's government will be much, much powerful, more powerful than Mr. Rouhani's, but there is no carte blanche anymore to Mr. Raisi. I don't think that Mr. Ahmadinejad government will be repeated anymore, who had carte blanche in first round of his presidential era. Everybody will be careful about him, but I think that external situation will force whole system to be more unified and support each other, to be more efficient and more productive. Since past 32 years ago, our international relationship in Iran between especially our neighbors, especially in our Arab countries' neighbors, has been under pressure of local struggle between political factions. Do you understand me? I mean that when, left and right wing have been fighting against each other, and then relationship with Saudi Arabia has been sacrificed. We don't see any more such a situation in next coming months. And because of this, I will see that better situation and less tension between Iran and whole world community, especially Arab countries and Persian Gulf countries and our neighbors, much, much less tensions. But I am optimistic that even before starting Mr. Raisi's government, Islamic Republic of Iran will sign a atomic deal with United States again. And we will come back to 2015 agreement. And because of this, our FATF again will be ratified, because absolutely we need to its hard currency from one side, and United States has no other choice also, because they tested, they experienced absolutely, huge pressure over Iran, and as they realized that the military operation is impossible against Iran, it means that both sides only have to sit again around one table and negotiate. I think diplomacy will be winner in next coming weeks. I am optimistic that Islamic Republic of Iran will come back to its agreement with United States, because to be atomic power is is useless for Iran from geopolitical point of view. They need in Tehran, Tehran needs atomic shield as a strategic shield against, invasion of United States. Otherwise, in 2015, we made a deal with United States. Everybody, including IAEA, approved that for 17 times, approved that Tehran is following its agreement. United States didn't meet its agreement against Iran, and because of this, we lost the atomic deal. Tehran will face with a very big challenge. If they want to do something immediately, they have to receive huge amount of hard currency money. And if they want to have to do so, they have to make atomic deal with United States. Because of this, Tehran is negotiating with United States very hard in spite of, changing the government. The first priority of principalist right wing, in my opinion, is economy, and making the country again in a normal situation. We are far from those days.
وتظهر ثلاثة فصائل رئيسية في إيران في الوقت الحالي، لكن جميعها حتى الآن لم تنجح في الإنصات لمطالب الشعب سواء المعيشية أو حتى خلق رسائل تطمين لمستقبل تلك البلاد.
We have three main factions in Iran at the moment. First of all is right-wing principalist, which Mr. Rئيسي is a representative of them. The second wave is, people who live in suburbs, out of cities, and they have been ignored since past 20, 30 years ago. Mr. Mahmoud Ahmadinejad is representative of these people, and they are more from quantity point of view than Mr. Rئيسي's faction. And the third one, which is, in my opinion, is the biggest one, is reformist movement. If people become hopeful about the future, they will participate in the election and we will be winner. Civilized society in Iran is changing very fast, and the change of shape of governing the country is inevitable in the future. I am looking forward. I am waiting for changing the way of governing the country, even through the shape of Vilayat al-Faqih, dramatically in the future. Civilized organization will be much more powerful in the future. For example, during last election, you have seen that how it has been harmful, lack of participation, 20 to 30% of people for the whole country.
ومع الإحصاءات التي تشير إلى معدلات التضخم الكبيرة ونقص العملات الأجنبية، تبقى إيران في حاجة ماسة لتدفقات الاستثمارات. لذلك فإن تغيير السياسات سيصبح أمراً حتمياً، سواء فيما يخص الوضع الاقتصادي أو حتى الاتفاق النووي. فليس أمام حكومة رئيسي خيار سوى التصرف بعقلانية.